I gripped my tablet tighter as my brother's words sliced through the boardroom. Once again, Tessa proves she's nothing but a disappointment, he sneered. His tone, a familiar blend of disdain and authority, stung more fiercely today, for he wasn't merely criticizing. He was obliterating my career before everyone. I'd spent 5 relentless years clawing my way up in our family's tech empire, determined to prove I wasn't merely riding on Adrian's coattails. Yet here he was, dismantling every scrap of my hard-won progress. The Singapore project was a disaster. Missed deadlines, irate clients, spiraling costs, he continued, pacing behind his leather chair. With a sudden jarring slam of his hand on the table, several board members jumped in surprise. I tried to interject, my voice steadier than I felt. That's not true, the delays were caused by your incompetence, he snapped, cutting me off. Effective immediately, Trevor will take over your major projects. Trevor, Adrian's fraternity buddy, who could barely manage his own email, smirked at me from across the table. I burned with silent rage as he casually fist-bumped Adrian, as if they were still carefree college kids rather than leaders of a billion-dollar company. I opened my mouth to speak again. Adrian, the Singapore client specifically requested. Enough! His shout ricocheted off the glass walls. This isn't up for discussion. You've embarrassed me enough. Clean out your office by the end of the day. A heavy silence descended. Every pair of eyes avoided mine, except Zoe's, our junior developers, brimming with unshed tears. I rose slowly, collecting my belongings with deliberate care despite trembling hands. You're right, I murmured, voice low and controlled. This isn't up for discussion. At the door I paused and turned back. But you might want to recheck those Singapore numbers, brother dear. Especially before next quarter's investor meeting. Head held high, I made my way to my office, where Camille waited, worry etched on her face. Down the hall I caught a snippet of Adrian's voice. What happened? I sank into my chair, a slow secret smile unfurling. He just made the biggest mistake of his career, I thought. What do you mean? Camille asked, her tone a mix of curiosity and concern. I unlocked my phone and opened a secure folder labeled Project Phoenix, the side project I'd nurtured in secret for 2 years, one that could upend everything we'd built here. Camille's eyes widened in disbelief. Yes, I whispered, already drafting an email to Dean, the investor who'd been practically begging to fund my independent venture. It's time to show him what his disappointed sister can do. The satisfying ping of the sent email resonated like the first shot in a war Adrian never saw coming. He thought he was pushing me out, but in reality he'd only unleashed his fiercest competitor. I remembered 2 years ago, in my cramped apartment cluttered with takeout boxes and prototype sketches. My phone buzzed relentlessly with Adrian's demands for updates on the Jakarta proposal, but I had ignored them. I was focused on the work that truly mattered. You're seriously going to do this? Camille asked, holding one of my sketches. Start your own company right under his nose? Watch me, I replied, pulling up a 3D rendering on my laptop. See this? It's everything Adrian says is impossible. Smaller, faster, cheaper, and it actually works. Camille leaned in, her eyes widening. Holy shit, Tessa. This could change everything. And in that charged moment, I knew exactly why Adrian would never see it coming. I shut my laptop with a soft click just as a knock sounded at my door. I knew without asking it had to be Dean. Dean, silver-haired with kind eyes that belied his ruthless business instinct, entered carrying a thick folder. Ladies, sorry I'm late. Traffic was hell. He apologized, settling onto my worn couch as he began shuffling through documents. Show me what you've got, he urged. For the next hour I laid out my vision. His questions came sharp and precise, but his slowly growing smile said everything. Finally he leaned back and said, This is brilliant, but why stick with your brother if you've got this? I paused, weighing my words. I need access to his client database, I confessed. And his mistakes? They're teaching me what not to do. Then my phone buzzed. Trevor. Where's the Morrison report? Adrian's asking. Speaking of mistakes, I muttered, fingers flying over the keyboard as I sent a quick reply. Watch this train wreck. In the following weeks, Trevor's incompetence unfolded exactly as I had predicted. He botched the Morrison presentation so badly that the client stormed out. Adrian covered for him, naturally, But I couldn't miss the worried glances from Naomi on the board during Trevor's fumbling explanations. During one particularly painful meeting, Camille leaned over and whispered, "He's going to run this company into the ground." Managed a small, determined smile. "Not before I save our best clients." Later that day, Dean called with the news I'd been waiting for. "The investors are in. You've got your seed funding, Tessa. When do you want to move forward?" I glanced out my office window and caught sight of Adrian berating a junior developer over Trevor's latest disaster. "Let's start now, but quietly," I replied. "I want everything in place before anyone notices." "Smart girl," Dean chuckled. "I'll set up the accounts tomorrow." As soon as the call ended, Zoe peeked into my office. "Tessa? Trevor's asking for the Singapore files again. He seems confused." I straightened my jacket, my voice cool but laced with resolve. "Tell him I'll bring them myself. We can't have anything getting lost in translation." Everything was beginning to fall into place. Adrian thought he was in control, but he hadn't seen me coming. Not yet. Then I found it. A dusty trophy in the storage room. "First place regional science fair," I murmured, the memory hitting me like a punch. Camille, sorting through old files with me, asked softly, "Your project on renewable energy storage?" "Yeah," I said bitterly. Adrian claimed I copied it from his college notes. Without hesitation, I tossed the trophy into the trash. Dad always believed him. Always. The office door swung open and Naomi strode in, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. "Tessa, do you have a minute? Trevor's numbers don't add up." I sighed. "They never do," I muttered before raising my voice. "What's wrong?" She spread several documents across my desk. "The Singapore project, Trevor's completely misinterpreted the data architecture. This could cost us millions." I scanned the sloppy calculations and then said, "I can fix this, but Adrian won't let you near it." Naomi's lips tightened. "Some of us on the board are concerned about recent decisions." Before I could respond, Trevor burst in without knocking. "Where are those files I asked for?" His eyes darted nervously between us. "Right here," I said, handing him a folder with deliberate calm. "Everything's clearly labeled." He snatched it and hurried out. Naomi raised an eyebrow. "That's not the Singapore data, is it?" I allowed myself a secret smile. "Nope, just basic documentation." He wouldn't understand the difference anyway. Moments later, Zoe rushed back in. "Tessa, we have a problem. I just saw Trevor copying files from your private server." My blood ran cold. "What files? Project folders? Client lists?" I couldn't make out everything, but the threat was clear. I grabbed my phone and texted Dean, "Need to accelerate timeline. Security breach." His reply came fast. "Meeting in 20. Bring everything." "Camille," called out, "remember our backup plan? It's time." She nodded, already tapping away at her laptop. "Initiating server migration now. Trevor won't find anything useful by tomorrow." I gathered my things, pausing at a framed photo on my desk. Adrian and me at his college graduation. He had his arm around me, yet his smile never reached his eyes. It was a reminder of our childhood battles for Dad's attention and praise that always eluded me. "You okay?" Camille asked softly. I forced a small smile. "Better than okay." I tucked that old photo into my drawer. A silent reminder of the one lesson Adrian ever taught me. Always have a backup plan for your backup plan. My phone buzzed. Naomi's message read, "Need to discuss alternative solutions. Dinner tomorrow." I couldn't help but smile and reply, "Perfect timing." Everything was aligning faster than I dared hope. Adrian had spent years teaching me to expect betrayal. Now I was about to show him just how well I'd learned his lesson. "Zoe, I need you to monitor every file Trevor accesses," I commanded, pacing my office. "Can you do it without leaving traces?" She grinned, her fingers already dancing across the keyboard. "Please," I added, recalling the security protocols I'd written, half of which were there to foil Trevor's brute force attempts. He was like a bull in a china shop. All force, no finesse. Soon, Dean arrived for our emergency meeting, exuding energy rather than concern. "I've got news. The investors are ready for a full presentation next week." Next week? My stomach lurched. That's sooner than Adrian's quarterly review? Dean's eyes twinkled. Exactly. Strike while he's distracted. Then Camille burst in, phone in hand. You need to see this email. Trevor's been bragging to Adrian about some revolutionary breakthrough he's discovered. I snatched the phone and scanned the forwarded message. He's trying to steal my project specs, but he's missing crucial components. Which he'll never find, Zoe chimed in. I already rerouted all sensitive data through our secure servers. The next morning I stepped into a storm. In the conference room, Adrian was berating Trevor, their voices crashing against the glass walls. You promised me something groundbreaking, Adrian roared, slamming his fist on the table. This is garbage, he bellowed. I couldn't help but smile as I passed by. Trevor's desperate attempt to cobble together my incomplete files had resulted in a technological disaster. Tessa, Naomi called, catching up with me in the hallway. I've been talking to the board. There's an unofficial meeting tonight. Will you join us? Before I could answer, my phone lit up with Dean's message. Investors secured. Full funding approved. Ready when you are. I texted back without hesitation. Count me in. I've got something interesting to share. Later in my office, Zoe showed me the access logs. Trevor's getting desperate. 3 firewall breaches last night. I leaned back, eyes fixed on the presentation I'd been perfecting for months. Let him try. He's only proving my point about Adrian's judgment. Moments later, Camille entered with coffee and a newspaper. Have you seen this? She asked, pointing at an announcement. Adrian's launching a major product next month, she informed me. My heart skipped a beat. What date? The 15th, she replied. I whispered. The same day as our investor launch. He didn't know it yet, but he'd just scheduled his own downfall. Dean called again. Tessa, the venue's booked. No turning back now. I looked around at my team, Zoe's quiet confidence, Camille's unwavering support, and thought of Naomi and the board waiting for my next move. Good, I replied. I'm done hiding in my brother's shadow. It's time to step into the light. The game was shifting. Adrian thought he was the only player. He hadn't realized he wasn't even holding the right cards. Later in the parking garage, Adrian cornered me. You're making a huge mistake, he hissed. Whatever you're planning with Naomi and the board, now you want to talk? I clicked my car keys. The sharp beep made him flinch. After months of letting Trevor wreck everything, he's still learning. Learning, he challenged. I laughed bitterly. The Singapore project is in shambles. Morrison's threatening to pull their contract. Face it, Adrian, you're losing control. His face reddened. I built this company. Dad built it, I corrected softly. You just inherited it. And you're trying to destroy it. He grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. I yanked free. No, I'm trying to save it from you. Back in my office, Camille updated me. 3 more clients have called. They're all coming to the launch. And Adrian's event? RSVPs are dropping by the hour. The pieces were falling into place, and I knew one thing for certain. The game was about to change. Trevor's presentation was a total disaster. My phone buzzed, a text from Naomi. Board meeting in 5. You might want to see this. I slipped into the boardroom just as Trevor began his proposal. It was painful to watch. He stumbled over half-formed ideas and misused technical terms, while Adrian nodded along as if proud of his protege. This is embarrassing, Naomi whispered beside me. We can't present this to shareholders. Why? I murmured, a tentative pause hanging between us. I might have an alternative. After the meeting, Naomi gathered a small group in her office. Show us what you've got, Tessa, she urged. I connected my laptop to the projector and pulled up the real Singapore project specs, my version. The room fell silent as I walked them through every detail. A board member finally breathed. This is incredible. Why aren't we implementing this? Because Adrian won't allow it, Naomi replied coolly. I met her gaze. Maybe we don't need his permission anymore. Just then my phone buzzed again. A text from Zoe. Trevor's getting desperate. Just caught him trying to access the secure server again. I typed back quickly, let him try. He won't find anything useful. That evening, as I packed up my office, Adrian appeared in the doorway. His voice, unusually soft, broke the silence. Remember when we were kids? We used to dream about running this company together. For a fleeting moment I saw the brother who once shielded me from bullies. A stark contrast to the man he'd become. Things change, Adrian. They don't have to, I said, my tone steady but laced with finality. He stepped closer. Whatever you're planning, we can work something out. I looked him in the eyes and saw the fear lurking behind his confident mask. He sensed a storm coming, one he couldn't name. You're right, I replied softly as I picked up my bag. Things don't have to change. But they will. I left him standing there, the countdown already begun. Back at our temporary office, Camille's voice cut through my thoughts as she spun my chair around. Tessa, are you even listening? I stood by the window watching the sun rise over the city. What if I'm making a huge mistake? I whispered, more to myself than to her. Don't you dare, Camille snapped. Not after everything Adrian's done. My phone buzzed once more. This time an urgent message from Zoe. Emergency. Trevor's in the server room. Now, go. Camille pushed me out the door, and I raced to the office. There, Zoe was already blocking Trevor's access. What exactly are you looking for? I demanded, startling him. He stuttered, fumbling with a USB drive. Adrian needed. I held up an identical drive. Looking for this, the one with all my project files? His face went pale. How did you? I've been 3 steps ahead since day one, I said, tossing him the drive. Go ahead. Show Adrian your big discovery. Zoe smirked as Trevor scrambled away. That drive was nothing but corrupted code and dead ends. Let him chase his own tail. Returning to my office, I answered a call from Dean. The investors are asking questions about Adrian's competing launch. Let them ask, I replied, pulling up our presentation slides. By this time tomorrow they'll have their answers. Moments later, Camille burst in, her face flushed with urgency. We have a problem. The caterers for tomorrow's launch just canceled. Apparently, Adrian doubled their usual rate to switch to his event. I sighed. Of course he did. I rubbed my temples. Call Maria's downtown kitchen. Tell them I'll pay triple. Already did, she grinned. They're in. Then my phone lit up with a message from Naomi. Board members confirmed for your launch. Adrian's furious. Almost immediately, another text arrived from Adrian himself. Whatever you're planning, stop now. Don't make me destroy you. I typed back with a cold smile. Too late. See you tomorrow, brother. That night, as the city slept, I lay awake, knowing that tomorrow would mark the beginning of the end for his reign, and the start of something entirely new. Camille arrived with wine and takeout, no hesitation in her eyes. I fixed my gaze on the laptop. The presentation was set. Dad always said business was like chess. Adrian, he'd say, played for a quick win. I was here to checkmate him. Then my phone buzzed. Zoe. Trevor had breached the backup servers and retrieved exactly what we needed. Soon they'd be drowning in chaos. I lifted my glass in a silent toast. To keeping enemies occupied and to tomorrow, I murmured. Camille's glass chimed against mine. To showing Adrian what his little sister can really do. As we finalized the last details, an unexpected calm settled over me. Tomorrow would change everything for the company, for Adrian, and for me. There was no turning back, and I welcomed that. Camille peeked through the curtains, her voice low. The Grand Plaza is packed, and you won't believe who just walked in. I straightened my blazer and caught my reflection. Adrian alongside Trevor, with worry etched on their faces. Then Dean appeared backstage, grinning. Your brother's event across town? Empty. Nearly everyone's here. My phone vibrated again with Zoe's updates. Adrian's presentation was in shambles, Trevor's breakthrough useless, and clients were already walking out. The announcer boomed. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our keynote speaker. My heels clicked on the polished floor as I stepped onto the stage. The spotlight warmed my skin. My voice, however, was measured and steady. Thank you for being here. Today we're not just launching a product, we're revolutionizing an industry. From the corner of my eye, I caught Adrian's face draining of color as I unveiled the prototype. The audience gasped, witnessing what his company had once called impossible. The impossible is now reality. Titan Dynamics is ready for your orders, I declared. Applause erupted. Naomi rose first, soon joined by the other board members. Then Adrian's voice rang out, incredulous. Titan Dynamics? You started your own company. I couldn't help a smirk as I replied into the microphone. Well, look who finally caught up. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. Yes, Adrian, while you schemed to undermine me, I was busy building something greater. Dean stepped forward. As lead investor, I'm proud to announce that Titan Dynamics has already secured contracts with major industry players. Naomi interjected, hand raised, including Lexington Corp's former clients. She fixed her gaze on Adrian. We've voted. Our contracts are moving to Phoenix. The next hour blurred into a whirlwind of handshakes and signed contracts. Adrian tried reaching me several times, but Camille and Zoe held him off with practiced ease. Finally, by the champagne table, he cornered me. You've ruined me, he cried. I met his desperate gaze and said calmly, No, Adrian, you ruined yourself. I only built something stronger from the ashes. Then Yvonne approached, desperation written all over her face. The files, they were all dead ends. I smiled slyly. Of course they were. Did you really think I'd leave my life's work vulnerable? As the event wrapped up, Phoenix's stock price soared and reporters clamored for interviews. Meanwhile, Adrian stood by the sidelines, his own launch forgotten. Watching Adrian and Yvonne leave, Camille whispered, How does it feel? My shoulders slumped as I remembered every slight. Every moment he dismissed and belittled me. It feels like justice, I murmured. My phone lit up with congratulations and contract offers, but the message that resonated most was from Naomi. The board made the right choice. So did you. The day was far from over, yet the war had been won. I triumphed without sacrificing who I was, simply by proving who I could be. Later, over coffee at our old childhood diner, where Dad once treated us to Sunday breakfasts, Adrian stirred his coffee and said, You could have destroyed me completely. Why didn't you? I met his eyes and replied softly, Because I'm not you. He winced, the truth in his words hanging heavy between us. I deserve that. You deserve even worse. I slid a folder across the table, its weight a silent challenge. Yet instead of retribution, I was offering a way forward. He opened it slowly, eyes widening as he read the contents. A partnership agreement. Phoenix needs a distribution network. Lexington Corp craves our innovation. I explained, leaning back as the truth of our new alliance settled between us. It's a limited partnership. You'll be a minor stakeholder, under your leadership, he whispered. Just then the bell above the door chimed. Camille and Dean entered. Papers ready? Dean asked, settling into the booth. Adrian's gaze remained fixed on the contract, his silence a heavy counterpoint to our charged history. I recalled the years spent desperately trying to outshine Dad, missing what was right before me. Sign or don't, I said, voice firm yet measured. But Phoenix moves forward regardless. After a long pause, he picked up the pen. You always were the smarter one, he admitted softly. Finally, he gets it, Camille murmured, almost incredulous. Once his signature sealed our fate, Adrian stood. Trevor resigned this morning, Dean noted. Adrian hesitated, regret lacing his words. I should have listened to you about him. About so many things. Yes, you should have, I replied bluntly. I gathered the remaining papers. Board meeting on Monday. Don't be late. He nodded, then paused at the door. Tessa? That science fair project in high school, truly brilliant. I'm sorry I took credit, he confessed quietly before leaving. After his departure, Camille squeezed my hand. You okay? She asked softly. Better than okay, I replied with a small smile as my phone buzzed. A message from Naomi. Contracts transferred. Phoenix is now an industry leader. Dean lifted his coffee cup. To the new CEO? He teased. To karma, I corrected, clinking my cup against his. And to finally breaking free. Later at Phoenix headquarters, Zoe greeted me with a bottle of champagne. The team my team, chosen not inherited, was eager to celebrate. They had believed in me when Adrian wouldn't, each one instrumental in building something extraordinary. I raised my glass. Let's celebrate, I declared, and cheers filled the room. Through the window, I caught a glimpse of the Lexington Corp building, a monument to years of proving my worth, now reduced to just another fixture in the skyline. What are you thinking? Camille asked quietly. I paused, then admitted, "Sometimes the best revenge isn't in destroying someone." I smiled, watching my team revel in our victory. A victory that had outgrown old shadows. My phone buzzed again. A message from Adrian. "Thank you for the second chance." I didn't reply. He'd have to earn his redemption just as I'd earned mine. For now, surrounded by my chosen family, I was exactly where I needed to be. No longer in anyone's shadow, but standing in my own light.